Hey everybody, I'm Jeff Bower.
And I'm Joey Marino. Welcome to Actor Chats with Troy Evans.
This is our third and final part with Troy.
You probably know him from Ace Ventura: Pet Detective, over 100 episodes of ER.
This episode, Troy talks about some of his acting heroes, his days on the set of ER, as well as advice for young actors out there.
So here is Actor Chats with Troy Evans.
And who were your favorite actors that kind of... Were there some that you looked to and said, that? Not to copy, but...
Well, Gary Cooper always, High Noon. Once you've seen High Noon, man, what? And Bogart and Jimmy Stewart, those guys are... And then as people I worked with, Sam Elliott.
Yes.
God.
Straight.
That's it goes. Something I read that I've tried to remind myself of if I do get jammed up. George Bernard Shaw wrote, "Anything worth doing can be done best, light and easy and steady and certain." And I think about that periodically. On ER, it happened. I always found it extremely flattering where the series regulars would have some line they wouldn't know what to do with it. They'd come to me and say, "Well, what would you do with this?"
Who asked you that specifically?
Well, I won't tell you.
I'm just curious.
One little trap that actors set for themselves is they think that every line has to be important and every line has to mean something. And it's just like when you have a conversation. Sometimes, part of this conversation we're having today, there are parts of it that aren't very important, and there are parts of it that are actually incongruous and sort of out of context, and so when you listen, you sort of dismiss that. So if you're in a scene in ER and you have a line that doesn't seem to make sense, just say the fucking line. Yeah. I don't know what happened. He's in room 212. Oh. And just
throw it away and just
toss
it.
That was the biggest direction seemed to be by most of the directors was just throw it away. You've been doing this a lot or something like that, so just throw it away.
Yeah.
But not easy to do sometimes, or is it? Was that even a skill to a certain degree?
Well, yeah.
You just kind of get used to it. Because
I guess there's a natural tendency to be embarrassed if you feel like you're not making sense. We mentioned Brick Tilley. Think of Brick Tilley. Do you know Brick Tilley? Mm-hmm. He was a guy who was a background player on ER, and is
quite a character.
He is a true American / Hollywood original.
Yes.
But he's a guy, but I know lots of others. I just bring him up as who will say, you'll have people standing around, just throwing the shit around, and he'll just say something that's completely off the wall and walk away.
Right.
And so why can't that happen in a script?
He got me so many times over the because I had a propensity to flirt with the background girls. I'd have my arm against the wall, and the prop department came up, and I didn't know what it was. They, the Polaroid cameras that they used to have. Like all of a sudden, I'd see a flash, and I'd go, "What the hell was that?" And the prop department, Ricky Kearns, they had 50 pictures of me chatting up different women with my arm against the wall, different relaxed poses. So one time, Brick Tilley, he'd heard this story, and he goes, "I used to be a personal trainer." I had egg on my face, but that was that quick little aside.
Yeah, there was one day there was a new background person on a very attractive young woman on the set, and the crew members were like honeybees. Yes. They're just one would sweep by, and as soon as he left, here comes another grip, and here comes a set dresser, and just buzzing by one. And I'm just standing there watching this thing take place, and Brick comes and he kind of hangs his chin over my shoulder and says, "The Duchess is too hip for the room."
He had all these little
quips.
He had all these quips, and he would kill you. What was some of your favorite scenes on ER? Can you remember? I remember one specifically. I just have to bring it up.
Okay.
When you danced with Maura Tierney.
Yes.
You danced with her. It was
what a
so
nice
great
thing the writers did. I'll tell you what I told John Wells one time. I said, you know what I would like to see Maura Tierney do? And he said, no, what? I said, anything. She
I
could
think
do. She could do anything.
We all had crushes on her. What do you remember about working with her?
Just that. I was just mesmerized by her. She would be so simple and so, and I think she was the kind of actress. She takes what she does so seriously that I think it was emotionally very difficult for her to do that show. Portraying this horrible, tragic situation, I think it was very hard on her. It was so easy for me. I was playing the desk clerk. It was, that was like stealing, and I talked to people who watched the show, and a lot of people considered me to be like a key part of the show, but by comparison, like Noah Wiley would have 180 lines of medical gibberish to do in a huge emotional scene, and I would have like 4 lines, and they're all like tags on scenes,
They shot a lot of one-ers on that,
yes.
And so it can't be very easy if all of a sudden you have the last line in a big one-er.
Oh, yes, and do you know the Jonathan Kaplan story? There are many, but this is one of those.
He's a great director.
And you know what a one-er is and ER was famous for. It was actually, I think, Hill Street Blues who created that format. They would open their every show on Hill Street Blues would open with a long running shot
and
like
it was
that.
A steady cam shot.
Yeah, steady coming in. And down the hallway, and they'd talk to Leo the jailer, and over onto Joe Spano, and on down the hallway, and talk to Sipowicz, and then ER really then raised that to a real art form. We'd do those shots that were 7 minutes long, and they'd be coming, they'd be inside the ambulance, and then and the gurney's coming out, and they're down on that patient, and they're screaming along, and it comes up, and they're on Dr. Green, and then Dr. Green peels off and goes in another room, and they follow him, and they're down on another patient, and then there's blood spraying, and they follow, and the nurse runs out to get, and they follow her down. There's just this whole series of things. And we're doing one of Jonathan Kaplan, who is the best director I've ever encountered in my life, but very mercurial, explosive. And I had the last word in this thing, and it was 6 or 7 minutes long, and they did like 10 takes, and they kept getting fucked up, and they finally go through, and they go all the way through. Whatever it was I had to say at that last word, what came out of my mouth was just gibberish. And Jonathan was very good to me, and he loved me. He cast me in several other things, and he had absolute trust in me. So we finished, and he went, cut, print, moving on. And I had to go over to him. I said, Jonathan, you might want to look at that last second, because I don't even know what I said, but it wasn't in the English language. He looked at me, and because it was me, he couldn't bring himself to scream at me, but I thought he was going to have a heart attack or a stroke. And, oh God, I would have felt so much better if he just screamed and told me I was a stupid motherfucker. But oh God, that was a terrible day.
And you know what? I remember that moment.
Yeah. Now, do you remember this? While we're on that topic, one day they were doing such an ER thing. They were doing. It was a scene where there had been a riot at a high school football game.
Yes.
So the
That's
ER.
Kaplan's too.
So the ER is overrun, and we were rehearsing, and tons of people in. So it was very complicated, and we try a couple, and it's kind of halfway coming together. And Jonathan, I think he's from Philly. I'm not sure, but somewhere back east. And wound real fucking tight, and so they get everything reset. We're just ready to go again. He says, "All right, everybody, rolling, and this kid on the gurney. Now this is his first day on a TV set, and he's just trying to be, a team player, and he says, sir. I remember Jonathan. He had those big headphones on. He kind of pulled them out like this, and he said, "Yeah, what?" And this kid says, "Did you have anything to say to me?" And Jonathan said, "To say to you? Do you have any idea what the fuck we're doing here? This is the crap that goes in between the commercials."
He had some of the best lines out of any director ever.
And I'll tell you the brilliance of this. That directors can act for you. And I'll tell you, when we did that next take.
Oh, yes.
When that kid came rolling in on that gurney, he looked traumatized. Believe me, man.
There was when Jonathan Kaplan directed the ADs, the background. It would take a moment like that. We had our A game. I mean, even as background, it's like, how many foreground crosses can I make? I mean, I remember when Jonathan Kaplan told me one time a background player next to me wasn't, really doing a job because he watched the background too on the monitor. He watched everything. If he didn't like what you were doing, the background came under scrutiny. So I remember what he told me. He said, "Tell that guy to get out of here. Tell him to go to the Joey Marino School of Background Acting." It was like, oh my gosh. But you were under the gun, but it lifted you like everybody. I don't care if you're an Academy Award winner on the set. I remember one time he told me, or just somebody, or just people, or just in general, I don't know if this is a great direction in a way. He goes, "Moments are for sissies." And that kind of came to what you were saying, right?
And I won't name this person, but I remember him calling one of the series regulars on the set Mumbles. "Hey, Mumbles.
Right.
I think you could show up for this next take,
Oh, he was brutal. I remember one time they had this thing where they, you get word down that all of a sudden, somebody was going to die or something on the show. And I remember one time I think that they were killing off one of the paramedics, God bless him.
Yes.
Good-looking kid,
Yeah.
And after, he'd left, one of the other paramedics was doing a long bit. One was like, "Maria Frederick is shot in the right arm with significant blood loss, BP 90 pal, TAC 1." And this guy was blowing it. And Jonathan paused and said, "We killed the wrong one." And you would just kind of sink, but it was kind of, he would say the things nobody would say, but you would kind of erupt into nervous laughter.
No, I have to tell you, I got him once.
Oh, did you?
He hired me to do the TV version of In Cold Blood, which we shot up in Canada.
Did you do it?
With
Edwards.
with Anthony Edwards, Sam Neill, and Eric Roberts. And so the scene in question, and I was one of Sam Neill's deputy investigators.
Yes.
And the scene was in this little tiny room, an interrogation room, where Sam Neill is interrogating Eric Roberts. And we shot it all day. It was stinking hot. And I have no lines in the scene. I'm was a version of good cop, bad cop. I'm just the bulldog. I'm just sitting in the corner the whole time, just looking at Eric Roberts, just bad-eyeing him for hours and hours. And they shoot the hell out of Eric Roberts, and they shoot the hell out of Sam Neill. And Sam Neill is a super nice guy. Uh-huh. But in this case, so then they finish shooting Sam, and we'd been shooting 7 or 8 hours in this little room by that time. And Jonathan says, "Okay," he said, "just coming around on Troy." And Sam, the story makes it sound a little bit like Sam was a dick, but he wasn't. It just hadn't occurred to him that they would cover because I don't say anything in the scene,
right,
And he said, "Coming around on Troy," And I said, yeah, Sam, he needs something he can use.
Oh my God!
And Jonathan Kaplan almost had a heart attack. You know, he jumped up. He said, "Okay, let's get because he thought I might set Sam Neill off and cause him. Yeah, Sam Neill was cool. He realized he'd been perhaps insensitive to his fellow actor.
to your day.
Any advice you want to give to listeners that are looking to be actors, or any advice in general that you feel has kept you going, through your illustrious career?
Well, calling my career illustrious is setting the bar pretty low. But I've been a lucky guy, and I have worked, and I'm proud of my career. Even though it's I'm one of those guys. I'm like a major league guy with a whole bunch of singles. No home runs. And maybe a couple of triples in there, but some really nice moments. My biggest advice it's two pieces. Number one, particularly the way the world is today, if you're not really impassioned by it, don't do it, because you'll just get murdered. So if you're going, well, I might be a marine biologist, or I might be an actor. If you have that doubt, be a marine biologist. Even if you're really talented, there's a very good chance that you'll never make any headway as an actor at all, because there are just too many people who want to be actors. And I think it's way harder than when I was starting, because now it's spread out all over the globe. It used to be it was concentrated in LA and New York, and if you went there, eventually you'd get some jobs. But now like the jobs that I cut my teeth on, they don't hire you to go be a cop number 2 in North Carolina or Georgia, or no, they hire somebody there to do those parts now. So, if there's any doubt in your mind, save yourself the heartache and go do the other thing that you like. But if you really want to be an actor, don't let anyone stop you. You just have to be tougher than they are. And remember, everybody had a first day. George Clooney at some point had to get his first job. I'll tell you a quick story. When I was still at in Montana at the university, and I was part of the committee that brought entertainment in for the school. And we had, do you know who Vassar Clements is? Vassar Clements is a bluegrass, he's passed away now, but he was a bluegrass violinist, a fiddler, who with a huge cult following. And so we booked him, and we booked a rock and roll act to open, and they were in a fairly small, like a 1,500 seat venue at MSU in Bozeman. And then I hired some guys to do this doofus little act in between, and they flopped. So and it just didn't show up on the day. So the people told me, well, you have to cover that. So I had no way. It was like a little comic thing, but I stole a routine I'd seen on the Tonight Show called "I Have No More Material," and I'm trying now. This is terrible because I can't think of the actor's name, but he's a guy. He's also a filmmaker. And maybe I'll think of his name as I tell the story. And he'd just gone on the Tonight Show and done this routine, which was, they called me today, and I was very happy. I said, come be on the Tonight Show. And then, in the middle of the afternoon, I realized I have no more material. And then he goes through this litany. Of course, if I just wanted to make you laugh, come on. I can afford eggs. And he has a little thing there. He takes out an egg and smashes it on his head, and he said I could stop the makeup guy in the hallway and have him paint a funny face on my chest. Tears over, has like eyes around his nipples, and it was hilarious.
Yeah.
So and easy to steal.
Right.
So, but the catch is this: we start this concert, and the concert was sold out. To these people came from the hills all over Montana to hear Vassar Clements, and they're getting more and more pissed. And Vassar Clements is late, real late, like 2 hours late. So we're sitting there, and it's stinking hot, and people are drinking, and they're getting more and more and more angry, and it's very explosive. And they wouldn't let me go on until he finally gets there, and they're ready to say, okay, so now there's been like an hour and a half of nothing, and then I'm supposed to go out, and I had on like I remember a blazer and a dress shirt and a patriotic red, white, and blue tie, and I start this thing about, I was supposed to entertain you, but I really have no material. And I start, then I start smashing the eggs on my head and spraying and dropping my pants and doing all this stuff. And at first, they're just booing. And then it got kind of quiet, and they're just looking at me like, what the fuck is it? And then some guy in the front row starts it, and all this happened pretty fast, starts stamping his foot and yelling, fuck you, and pretty soon the entire audience of this place, they were all chanting in unison, fuck you, fuck you, fuck you, fuck you. And I can remember I had one thought in my mind when that's going on, which was, you can't make me stop. And finally, I got to the end of my little routine, and I screamed into the microphone, ladies and gentlemen, Vassar Clements. And this old hillbilly comes out, and I'm standing with my pants around my knees, covered with all this shit. There's crap all over the stage. And he came out, and he sort of stepped around me to get to the microphone, and over his shoulder he said, yeah, real good, kid.
On one thing, the last day of ER,
Yes.
you gave the last toast.
There was advice that I got from Charles Durning.
Okay.
And
Charles Durning.
And I was at the Dallas Film Festival, and I was there to present an award to Charles Durning. He was their honoree, and he was a Silver Star winner on Omaha Beach. And I was there because I'm a infantry veteran also, and an actor, so I was there to present this thing to him. And so in the course of our chatting, I asked him if he had any advice about acting, and he said, if you're going to have sex with an animal, make sure it's a horse, and that way you'll have a ride home.
Oh, that's great. Thank you so much.
You can't top that, kid.
Can't top it. Thank you so much, Troy.
You're welcome.
So that was our third and final part with Troy Evans.
That was so good.
It was a great time. A great time had by all. Be sure to tune in next week when we have a different actor that we're going to chat with.
This has been Actor Chats with Troy Evans.